So I'm Paul Hogan. I'm a senior advisor at the Department of Housing, Planning and Local Government in Dublin, in Ireland. My job involves overseeing the implementation of the National Planning Framework for Ireland that I had a role in preparing over the last few years. So the National Planning Framework is a strategy or a framework that governs a settlement strategy and an infrastructure strategy for future development in Ireland. It's a social, economic, cultural and environmental framework intended to address the operation of planning throughout Ireland in our 3 regions and 31 local authorities. What's significant about the National Planning Framework is that it's aligned with a public capital investment plan for infrastructure for the next 10 years that operates on a rolling basis. So the main aspects or the main elements of the strategy or the framework are to encourage a greater amount or element of regional development in the country. So a lot of development would be left to its own devices under a business as usual scenario, concentrated in and around Dublin as the main city. And in Australian standards, Dublin would be the equivalent of Melbourne and Sydney put together. So it's a very dominant prime city in our sphere. So the second element of the strategy is to encourage a very rapid and accelerated level of growth in our cities other than Dublin. So there are 4 principal cities that are fairly geographically spread in the south and west of the country. They are Cork, Limerick, Waterford and Galway. Another element of the strategy is to encourage growth in the regions beyond the cities. So the cities will have a regional influence, but the north and west of the country in particular doesn't have good access to large centres of scale. So we've identified 5 smaller regional centres that are almost like secondary growth centres in addition to the cities other than Dublin and including Dublin. So I would say that we're not trying to shift or move people against their will. A plan like this is about encouraging investment, encouraging people with skills and talent to locate in places that are attractive and of interest to them. And at the moment there is a lot of interest in locating in Ireland, but most of that interest, or a lot of that interest, is concentrated in and around Dublin, and that's a difficulty for us because that level of interest causes a sort of a congestion associated with economies of scale. With a city maybe being too rapidly growing, and that has had a knock-on impact elsewhere. So what we're trying to do is rebalance. What we're trying to do is promote urban growth other than in Dublin, and also to grow our regions and rural areas. And to date, we've been implementing for a year. We've had some success, but we've a long way to go. This is a long-term strategy. It won't happen overnight. It won't happen even in a couple of years. But we've been very fortunate in having a very significant buy-in across the board, across the system, and we expect that this will be an enduring plan that's resilient and renewable into the future.